Prada from our Telesur studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with our news, and we begin in the Caribbean, in Barbados, the 31st intersessional meeting of the Caribbean community began on Tuesday to address a series of regional matters. Representatives of the 15-member countries will deliberate on policies regarding security, climate change, tourism, and commerce. They will also discuss the implementation of the CARICOM single market and economy and a regional approach to fight the coronavirus, along with international issues. The meeting will end on this Wednesday. The CARICOM Secretary General Irwin Larocque began the session by addressing the present issues at hand.
The scope of our agenda illustrates the breadth of issues which we as a community must address to further consolidate our integration and to position ourselves advantageously in an increasingly complex and challenging global arena. Whether it is the imperative of making significant progress with the single market and economy, securing our financial sector, safeguarding our fiscal sovereignty, enhancing our technological capability and capacity, protecting the health and security of our people, expanding our foreign outreach, it is with one goal in mind. We have to build a resilient Caribbean community.
On lauding the success of the regional integration movement, CARICOM chairperson Mia Modley urged the heads of government to act in the interest of the region and protect its sovereignty.
I hope and pray, particularly in the presence of these young people for whom we act today, but who will act for us tomorrow, that we take courage and recognize that it is in the interest of those who are not of this community to advance their own individual causes. The only people capable of defending our causes and our future and our development is us, ourselves. We may not do it overnight. We may not do it in a year. We may not even do it in a decade. But if we recognize that this integration movement is one of the most successful integration movements that was established in the 20th century, we then better appreciate the responsibility that we have to care it, to nurture it, and not to allow for any kind of political or diplomatic embolism to threaten its existence. I trust and pray that we come to this moment, therefore, conscious that as family, nothing can separate us and no one shall get in between us. It is against this background that we therefore recognize that it is principles that shall guide us always. And if we are faithful to those principles, then we shall always find a way home. Principles may be inconvenient, but they guarantee our protection and our integrity.
The Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Alan Shaston, had noted that the challenges existed while he was at the helm. This includes what he called an undemocratic European Union blacklisting, the risking and the issues within both Haiti and Venezuela.
The lack of resolution to the ongoing situation in Venezuela continues to concern us. So far, all efforts at mediation have failed. In fact, from all indications, conditions in Venezuela continue to deteriorate despite a recent lull, and this is likely to make finding a solution even harder. The involvement of outside forces in the controversy, however, could only escalate the crisis and make a resolution that more difficult, while at the same time testing and stressing our own attempt at a common position on that issue.
We move on. In Venezuela, the government has strongly condemned the United States' decision to impose sanctions on the Russian oil company Rosneft for trading in Venezuelan crude oil. The Foreign Minister Jorge Arreaza tweeted that these latest sanctions were an attack on Venezuela's oil industry, its workers, and the economy. He said the government would add them to the case against the United States, which it has taken to the International Criminal Court of The Hague. And regarding this, Spanish Socialist Workers and Unidas Podemos parties have ratified the rejection of opposition lawmaker Juan Guaido's declaration of being interim president of Venezuela. A total of 190 deputies rejected a motion aimed at ratifying the decision of President Pedro Sanchez, who recognized Juan Guaido as Venezuela's president a year ago. Spanish parties accuse Guaido of putting his political ambitions before the Venezuelan people and that he disrupts the government's good work. Like this, we go for a first break. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter at Telesur English and on my account at Laura P. Telesur. We'll be right back.
In a world infested by inequalities, abuse of power, and injustice, the American journalist Abby Martin covers the struggle for fundamental rights worldwide, deep into the search of files which uncover the empire's strategies through our screen and web platform in English. The Empire Files with Abby Martin. Tuesday, only on Telesur.
Es el mismo formato de Libia, es el mismo formato de Irak, es el mismo formato de Siria. Que el mundo sepa, nos están agrediendo, nos quieren invadir.
Y él quiere que nosotros creamos que está muy interesado en enviar ayuda humanitaria a Venezuela con enmascarados lanzando cócteles molotov.
Además llegaron a decir que estaban violando la Convención de Ginebra sobre Derecho Internacional Humanitario.
Who's moving the chessmen? What interests motivate the actors behind each event? The board is deployed there. Critical move. Investigates every event from Monday to Friday. Only on Telesur.
The Pakistani journalist Tariq Ali examines the mass media influence promoted by imperialism. Get access to the analysis of the socio-economic and political life of the whole South America on our screen and platform in English. A critical place committed to the truth to determine the major events that transform the world today. Mondays, only on Telesur.
We are back with our news. Leaders of diversity of indigenous peoples of Brazil denounced the government of Jair Bolsonaro for its strategy which seeks to divide a movement of native people. Leader Sonia Guajajara reaffirmed her support to the indigenous cause against mining mega projects and overexploitation of their habitats.
Bunch of people are feeling the authority by hate speech and inducement of the government. There is where they try to divide us. They intend us to play one against the other because the government is using a strategy to provoke confrontation between us, to provoke the division and capitalize those indigenous communities so they have the support of them. However, we are against this clash, having the position to not agree with this project. We indigenous people together are majority, then you wonder. It is important to observe and measure the support of who are defending the rights and life of indigenous people.
It is necessary because there is nothing that have a greatest impact in the poor indigenous neighborhoods that the legislative measures regarding consultations. The lack of a consultation points that the whole parliament is so poorly acknowledged of indigenous affairs that they allow some senseless are known as the respect of indigenous childhood, because it is what for a taking back territory were an absolutely great process of minor with the collective and political participation of the communities. That is why it is important that the galvanizes consultation and the fight for it to be incorporated to be parliament.
And in Bolivia, the movement towards socialism denounced the political persecution against its leaders after the Supreme Electoral Tribunal decided to keep on hold the candidacies of Evo Morales, Luis Arce, and Diego Pari. The political movement claims that the formal requirements presented by its leaders have no kind of observation. They also demand that the report issued by the Supreme Electoral Tribunal is a response to the campaign of country's extreme right-wing candidates. They also denounce that 11 of the 13 demands for disqualifications are against candidates of the movement towards socialism party, including their presidential candidate, Luis Arce, and the proposal for senator for candidate of Cochabamba, Evo Morales. We update about the coronavirus. The World Health Organization has announced that there have been 110 new cases of coronavirus outside China in the past 24 hours, but warned about a global overreaction to the outbreak following panic buying, event cancellations, and concerns about cruise ship travel. China's official death toll has risen to nearly 1,900. The outbreak is threatening to put a dent in the global economy, with China paralyzed by vast quarantine measures, and major firms such as iPhone maker Apple and mining giant BHP warning it could impact their earnings. So far, more than 72,000 people have been infected in China and hundreds more abroad. The World Health Organization has stressed that the disease has only infected a tiny portion of people outside its epicenter, and the mortality rate remains relatively low. Also in China, the director of Wushan Hospital in Wuhan, Liu Ximin, died of coronavirus this Tuesday. The Municipal Health Commission announced that the 51-year-old Dr. Liu, a professional neurosurgeon, lost his life as a result of his work fighting the COVID-19 coronavirus. The doctor assumed the leadership of the medical team that fights the virus in the cities of Wuhan, where this started the outbreak, knowing that it endangered his own health. The Wushan Hospital medical team made great efforts to save his life, even if they did not succeed. Meanwhile, Russia has announced that it will temporarily suspend the entry of Chinese citizens to its territory starting from 20 February as part of Russia's measures to prevent the spread of the novel coronavirus. The suspension will be for Chinese citizens entering Russia for employment, private educational and tourist purposes. And of the 12 confirmed cases of coronavirus in France, only 4 people remain in hospital. Health Minister Olivier Véran stressed on Tuesday the next following.
We're prepared for a possible outbreak. We're prepared for any coronavirus situation, and we continue to prepare for any eventuality should the situation change. All the patients who were hospitalized at the Grenoble University Hospital were able to leave the hospital, including the family who had been contaminated, an English family. The father with his son were able to leave the Grenoble University Hospital. Not only are they no longer ill, but they are no longer carriers of the virus, which means that as of today, we are left with 4 people who are hospitalized, 3 people hospitalized in Lyon, and the 1 person hospitalized in Saint-Étienne.
And like this, we go for another short break. Just stay tuned with us.
The toughest sanctions ever imposed by us on a country.
The aim, ask the United States what the aim is.
A review of the world news that investigates, incites analysis, and induces criticism, because every event has a context.
Pusimos el punto en ahí.
Dot in the eye. Saturdays, only on Telesur. Our actions have an impact on the environment. It's our responsibility to change for the sake of our planet. Let's be part of this transition. Watch, preserve, and protect your Green Zone. Wednesdays, only on Telesur.
Acompañamos a los pueblos que resisten en cada una de sus luchas.
Somos esa ventana que se abre para visibilizarlos entre fronteras.
Thursdays, only on Telesur.
We are back with our news. Spanish farmers in Yellow Vest have blocked highways with about 700 tractors in the southwestern part of the country in the latest mass protests over what they say are plummeting incomes for agricultural workers. Several labor unions call for rallies, predominantly in the Extremadura and Andalusia regions, to demand government actions to ensure more realistic retail prices for fruits and vegetables. Protests against high production costs and low prices for farm produce are posing an almost daily challenge to a Spanish month-old coalition government as the European Union plans to cut agricultural subsidies and the United States threatens to impose tariffs. And in Italy, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov met with his Italian counterpart Luigi Di Maio in Rome to discuss the Libyan conflict. Along with the European Union, they agreed that a collective maritime effort needs to be launched to enforce the UN arms embargo around Libya.
We understand very well the legitimate and obvious reasons why Italy seeks to sort out these questions, and why the European Union is interested in preventing illegal delivery of arms to Libya. I'm convinced that by turning to the United Nations Security Council, our colleagues will be able to get a decision that will satisfy them and that will be in compliance with the norms of international law, including the prerogative of the Security Council.
Meanwhile, Luigi Di Maio said that the main objective will be to enforce the arms embargo. He referred to the initial objections from Austria and Hungary, which feared the ships might attract migrants and enable more of them to reach Europe.
The second point is that the ships will be located in the east coast of Libya, and this will allow us to monitor ships that bring arms and at the same time not to characterize this mission as a mission that is along the route of the migrants. There we have the cooperation of the Libyan Coast Guard, and we work with the Libyan Coast Guard, which is primarily on the west coast. Third, this mission yesterday reached its first political agreement, linking it to the fact that it had a precise mission, and that is to stop the arms, period.
And Chief Commander of Iran's Revolution Guard Corps, Qasem Soleimani, has said that his country's air defenses are more advanced than those of Western powers like United States. He made the remarks almost 2 months after the U.S. assassination of Iran's top commander, Qasem Soleimani, giving this interview to Al Mayadeen.
We have shown a small part of our missile capabilities, and the enemy saw their accuracy and ability to bypass air defense systems. We have created this system without relying on any foreign power. Our drones fly thousands of kilometers, perform precise operations, and manage to avoid air defense systems. Our air defense systems are much more accurate than the ones developed countries have, and manufacture them ourselves. Today we can fight great battles in the seas with thousands of speedboats and regular ones. On the ground, we have an infinite power of popular mobilization, and this power is truly infinite.
Soleimani stressed that Iran's attack on Iraqi military bases hosting U.S. forces was their retaliation for Soleimani's assassination and also served as a warning to Israel, suggesting them to distance themselves from Trump's administration.
We send a warning to the Israelis, who are much smaller and more incapable than the Americans, that all the places they occupy are within our fire range. It is very possible for us to eliminate Israel, but the circumstances are not favorable at the moment to do so. High-tech walls or soldiers who are tired of war and fear death will not save the Israelis. The Israelis should not count on the U.S. government like others who have done so and have not achieved any results. We will support Palestinians, Lebanese people, and Syrians now more than before, and we will defend Yemen, Bahrain, and Afghanistan. Trump and Netanyahu should not think their policies will do good in the Islamic world, because soon they both will be buried alongside their policies.
And the UN Special Envoy to Yemen, Martin Griffiths, said that the UN Security Council that during the past months the military situation has grown increasingly dire in Yemen, and it could reverse efforts made to create a lasting peace. Griffiths said that the warring sides have both announced expansive military goals and exchanged fierce rhetoric. This puts UN efforts to end a 5-year conflict at great risk prior to the recent increase in violence. He said the parties had considerably reduced the number of airstrikes and cross-border aerial attacks. He said this de-escalation has a strong positive impact on the prospect of peace and can do so again if the parties are committed.
We are witnessing in Yemen what we have long feared. Since October, I have briefed this Council several times on the signs of hope and momentum towards peace. But at the same time, we have all been acutely aware that renewed violence could reverse the gains made, render peace more difficult, and inflict even more severe humanitarian consequences on the population.
Moving on, Uganda has released 13 detained Rwandan nationals as the two countries re-engage to mend broken relations. The freed Rwandan citizens were facing espionage and security-related charges, but Uganda released them as a sign of commitment to an ongoing process of finding a lasting solution to the conflict between the two countries. Relations between Rwanda and Uganda deteriorated last year when the two sides accused each other of citizen killings and espionage.
And most importantly, it is Uganda's expectation that Rwanda too will reciprocate the goodwill gesture by addressing the concerns that Uganda has raised, including people being detained and including still incarcerated in Rwanda, within the Rwanda framework, which requires immediate action.
And Cameroon's army described an incident in which 22 civilians were killed by a fuel explosion during a firefight in the northwest region as an unfortunate accident. Opposition parties accused the army of orchestrating a massacre, but army spokesman Colonel Cyril Anton Gemo rejected the allegations. The United Nations reported that up to 22 civilians, 14 of them children, died on Friday's incident, which occurred in the village of Ntumbo in Cameroon's northwest region, one of the two English-speaking regions that have been grappling with separatist violence since October 2017. Like this, we come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find this and much more other information on our website, LeicesterEnglish.net, where you can read opinion articles, watch special interviews, and much more other information. You continue with us with Telesur, always together, connecting our global thousands. Until next time, thank you for watching.
By inequalities, abuse of power, and injustice. The American journalist Abby Martin covers the struggle for fundamental rights worldwide, deepening into the search of files which uncover the empire's strategies through our screen and web platform in English. The Empire Files with Abby Martin. Tuesday, only on Telesur.
Innovation, science, the technological breakthrough, and its influence in society.
Viajeros del saber, el futuro está aquí.
Atomy. Monday,